G'day traders, we're going to wrap up of Wednesday the 23rd of May. Here's the candle we're looking at here. So it was a day that ended up being won by the buyers, but it took a while. Definitely the sellers were in control most of the day till well after lunch, and then we got this real streak from the buyers, and they broke up really quite heavily right at the end of the day. But it was a day we started off where it looked like the sellers were starting to gain back control after getting that bounce. Then the next day, which was the Tuesday, it continued to bounce higher before eventually pushing down, and the pre-market pushed down to where we were basically starting today, Wednesday's trading day, and there was certainly some pressure coming back on the downside, and thought it had possibilities of getting around 12 to 87. The fact that it get this bounce too, that's certainly not something that's unpredictable. At the end of the day, it's still extended. It's going to go through this bit of a stage where it consolidates, and we've got this fairly significant support over here from a few months ago as well. So that's what did happen today, is a consolidation day. So what happens is we're going to get some days with multiple direction moves, and that's good for day trading. So of the signals that are just recording, just for educational purposes, there was quite a few setups, so that did come today. So as we get to them, I'll make reference to them. But just looking at the 5-minute chart here, basically, you can see it was quite a sideways start to the day. We pushed down, pushed up. I really thought this is maybe where we start to break to the upside and going to continue this bounce. But as quickly as it broke out, it came back, and then we started pushing down here and breaking this significant area here. So I guess the sellers were away, and we're getting a push down here. So we're just waiting for some sort of pullback, retracement, which did come. So the predictive crossed up at the end of this candle here. So you look for one tick better fill with that first pullback of the day, and would have just held before pushing down, so recorded that. So that's a win today. It's with the daily charts. Overall, this setup purely just as is, it's still slightly better than 50%, 6 from 11, and taking the ones just with the daily charts are better than 50% as well, 3 from 5. So that came back, didn't quite retrace back all the way to the lows of where it originally the swing low that made early on. But then it started to push back to the downside. So 5-minute sell here, which worked. Now, overall, it's a kind of tough one. What happens depends on how discretional we want to get. My thoughts was at this time, some of the other markets were really holding. They were getting this formation like they wanted to push up, and I just wasn't quite so sure whether it'd come down and get to these lows again. But all the other markets were certainly holding the area. And it had a lot of reasons to go with it, but then some reasons to believe that the market was pushing up. So one of those ones that could have went both ways. In the end, it's held, and overall, these areas do tend to, once you get a trend pullback, then continuation, you just take them as is. They tend to be working overall quite well. From there, we pushed a little bit lower. You can see that they've broken this last swing low here, but then the buyers came. So ever since from basically when this first pullback started, first retracement, the Russell and the Nasdaq were really trying to resist sellers and get on the buy side, and eventually they got their way, and this is where they started to push up. So we pushed up, again broke this significant area here, so that's a real indication that the buyers are gaining some momentum, come back, and then away they went on the upside here. So this is an area where it's breaking out. We've got a 5-minute buy occurring here. Again, not a bad area. It's right on that breakout area, so you've got to be careful of a bounce. But as long as the other markets are right up at this point and breaking as well, it's a good one to go with. And you can see this one, there's a ton of points, and from there we just streaked up without even really stopping. And I'll show you that trend on the 1-minute chart now. So here's this kind of this sideways start where we pushed up higher, then eventually we've come down here on the downside. Got to the yellow, didn't stop there. We eventually hit 6 power points on the same side before coming back to this purple. So we've got a 10-point downtrend, looking to take the first retracement power point. So this one's worked well. So that's one of the wins. So you can see up here I've got 1 win, 1 loss, and also a second power point after the yellow as well. Got a winner today as well. So here's this grey power point. So as soon as it hits the purple, as long as it then doesn't bounce back down and get another power point, which it just comes short of, and then comes back to the grey, it's still a setup. So Again, it's a setup. If you're quite discretional about it, it's one that's a bit bizarre. You probably wouldn't take it because the grey is not that much above the purple, but still managed to get a couple of points out of it. So again, it's just purely an automatic. Looking at it without any discretion. So this one did actually work. From there, we pushed down a bit lower, and you can see this area around here was potentially an area where I thought the market could hold and start to push higher from. Is where the Russell and the Nasdaq were really starting to get some holding formations, but from there we've pushed down lower. You can see a day where there's quite a few power points hit, and then this is the start of this uptrend here. So we pushed up, came back before breaking up again, and then this uptrend, looking for some sort of pullback power point to get before it actually hits the cash market highs, because it definitely looked like I want to go that way, but there's just no opportunity. Just kept hitting the upper, and eventually it hit about 7, 8 power points on the same side. A very strong uptrend there. So overall, a day of quite a few different opportunities for all the different type of trade setups, and a good example of, I guess, markets breaking, trending and breaking significant swing low and swing high areas, and that's the sort of, if you keep looking at that relationship between the buyers and sellers, so every time it comes down, look for it where it's going to test and then break. This market here, when it's coming up here, you can see it's broken this area here, so that's a real signal that the buyers are coming. So this is most likely just to be some sort of pullback for continuing up, because they've got this break up. So a good example of that today, and that's certainly something to keep an eye out on, and a good way to interpret these markets. So that's a wrap up for Wednesday. We'll speak to you guys Thursday.